Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
And, you know, we did Dennis vs. the Movies month.
Yeah.
And I was showing you, like, movies that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a little switcheroo.
Yeah.
So it's not like the first time you've shown me a movie that you love. But I know you don't believe me when I say I don't think I've watched this with you. And I know that seems hard to believe for multiple reasons, including the fact that you have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
A technology that I don't think was commercially available when we started dating. So I don't know why I haven't sat and watched this with you.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have. I don't know anything about this movie. We are watching Hal Hartley's The Unbelievable Truth.
Now, you are far from a Hal Hartley novice. You've seen Trust.
Yeah, Trust is great.
And you've seen,
Henry Fool.
Henry Fool.
Great movie.
Did you see Girl from Monday?
No.
Okay, I feel like we saw one of those digital nightmare movies.
Yeah, no, maybe it was The Girl from Monday we
Yeah.
saw. It was on that digital video format that does not work with his style at all. It makes everything look really cheap. And that's not just him. I mean, look.
And if somehow Hal Hartley gets to hear this, I'm sorry I called it a digital nightmare.
but
it's really hard to watch.
It is. Look, it's that video format that people were experimenting with at the turn of the century because it was cheap. Much cheaper than film.
Yeah.
But it looks like you're doing a bad videotape.
Yeah.
Right? Look, Spike Lee did the same thing in Bamboozled.
It looks like the beginning of Manhunter.
What? Manhunter? Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, exactly. It looks like you're filming a movie with a camcorder. And the thing is, that doesn't really work with the kind of arch abstract performances that you get in a Hal Hartley movie. For anybody who has not seen a Hal Hartley movie, it's very similar acting to what you find in a Wes Anderson film. Wes Anderson is obviously heavily influenced by Hal Hartley.
Both are influenced by the French New Wave.
And Jim Jarmusch. And yeah, so when you have that kind of acting style, it doesn't work with videotape because it just makes it look like a bunch of amateurs made it. It works in film because film just works differently, right? And like, yes, shooting on digital can also work if you know what you're doing, but this is early in digital video. And so, like, yeah, Girl from Monday, it looked terrible.
We did see Where to Land.
Where to Land was great.
That was great.
That's his most recent, hopefully not his last film, but it might be. And I thought Where to Land was fantastic. And why? It was shot on film. The guy can't get funding, unfortunately. It's very difficult for him to make films. It sucks. He's fallen through the cracks, in a way that, well, Jarmusch has not. Jarmusch has champions. He has like Bill Murray show up in his films. Who does Hal Hartley get? Edie Falco, who's great. But you're not getting a whole lot of big names.
Michael Imperioli, Parker Posey.
Parker Posey might be the second biggest star. Michael Imperioli is great, but like
I'm not sure if she's ever been a star of his film, but she was in a bunch
Faye
of them.
Grimm.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
Ha!
Yeah, sorry.
Anyway.
Yeah,
no, you're right. I have watched. I'm not new to Hal Hartley, but there's several of his films I've never seen. I haven't seen Amateur.
I started showing you fell asleep.
Dennis, it was already like 10:30 at night. I had work the next day, and you're like, let's watch this movie. And I'm like, I don't feel great.
I could have watched it.
I know you could have. In fact, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
How did you first encounter the movie we're going to watch tonight?
All right. So there's a channel called Prism.
There is not anymore.
There was in the Philadelphia area, and they would show movies. I did not have HBO. We had Prism because that's where the flyers were.
Yeah.
So, like, I was just watching.
I love the idea that Philadelphia had its own HBO. It was called Prism, and nobody else knows about it.
Right.
Prism is also where I watched the Frost-Nixon debate when I was, or whatever you call it, when I was like 10. So, like, we had Prism too. Yeah. So, go on, please.
So, I was watching this movie come on, and it's this guy, he's hitchhiking, he gets picked up by these two people. Spoiler alert. He does. I don't know.
Okay.
So this is very early in the film. Suddenly the screen goes black and there's I think it says "meanwhile" or something, and I'm like, wait, what just happened? And then it changes the scene to something else, and so I'm just kind of half watching because it's like 1991, so I'm 20, I guess. Maybe it's later. I don't know. Actually, it must be later because I have the videotape right here.
Okay.
But so maybe it was like 92 or something. But whatever it was, like I kept watching. More words come on the screen later on, and I was just like, "What is going on? This is so weird." But at the same time, it's set in the suburbs. It's set in Lindenhurst, New York, part of Long Island. I was just engrossed, and I can talk a little bit later about it. But what got me was that it's just this weird European feeling film set in American suburbs, which was like, you can do that? Like for me, it's like John Lennon hearing Elvis Presley. Like this huge door opening thing in my head seeing this. I was like, oh, this kind of thing can happen here, which was awesome. I saw part of it. In fact, I kept switching channels because that's what you do when you're on cable back then. You watch like 70% of a film. Yeah. Because like, I don't like what this character's saying, so I'll go to MTV. But I still got more engrossed, and so that night I grabbed my tape. I have a tape that has The Hunt for Red October and RoboCop, and I guess RoboCop didn't make the cut for me, so I rewound to the beginning of RoboCop and copied The Unbelievable Truth over it.
You taped over RoboCop.
And the funny thing is that it stars Robert Burke, who would later star in RoboCop 3. So I was looking into the future.
Were you?
I don't know.
So it was playing, and you saw it was going to play later that night.
At 2 in the morning. So I stayed up and taped it and watched it. Like, I was just so enthralled, and I just kept watching it. And
I would say it's amazing the way that, when you're 20, you can do that. You just like, well, it comes on at 2 in the morning. I'm going to stay up and watch it. You would do that now, actually.
I would do that now, totally.
That's definitely not a youthful thing with you. So you love this film.
Yeah.
And we are lucky enough that we have a guest when we come back. Stephen Cooke, a Canadian film critic, journalist.
Serious dude.
Yeah, serious dude. It teaches at a college, I think.
A cousin of mine, yeah.
He's not your cousin.
We don't know.
Look, just because you're part Canadian doesn't mean you're related to everybody in Canada.
But maybe.
Well, then why haven't we emigrated?
I don't know.
Things are kind of weird here now.
We're rolling it over.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I'm very excited to talk to Stephen. He is a longtime listener and booster of our show, and he had a great show called "Lends Me Your Ears" that I used to listen to. He did a podcast with a guy, and it was a great show where they took like a film that was out now, and they would compare it with a film like from film history and stuff.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Oh, you should go back and let's find out if it's still available like on an RSS feed or something. But yeah, I'm very excited to talk to Stephen. He loves Hal Hartley. We've been wanting to have him on the show for a long time actually. So we finally found a film we could go over. And this is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Should we do our questions?
Yeah, you have to guess what this film is.
Yeah, I have to guess what. I don't know. I mean, it's okay. It's Hal Hartley. It's set in the suburbs. I know it stars Adrienne Shelly. And what's his name? Robert Burke.
Yeah.
Is he her dad? I don't know how old Robert Burke is here. Shelley was young, probably in her 20s when she would have made this, I guess.
Yeah.
I assume she's playing a young woman who ends up in a relationship that's probably not great for her with a guy. Maybe it's Robert Burke. I don't know how old he is when he made this. And it's all about the quirky thing that happens in their relationship. Now, I think you said Edie Falco is in it. I don't know if anybody else I recognize is going to be in this. Anybody else who may have been on The Sopranos shows up, but it is that, or Law and Order, it is that type of show though. That type of movie though, because of where he filmed it. When you watch shows that are made in the New York area, New York, New Jersey, Long Island, it's not unusual to see people who are on, shows from that area to show up in his films, or to show up on The Adventures of Pete and Pete. That's the other big show from around the same time period, and often had some of the same actors. What's his name? Martin Donovan?
Right.
It was on The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and he is the main dude in Trust. But also, Steve Buscemi played a character on The Adventures of Pete and Pete. So I don't know. Has Buscemi ever been in?
Buscemi, I don't think is in any.
He's never been in a Hal Hartley movie. No, you know why?
I'm sorry.
Because he was already hitting Hollywood by the mid '80s.
Yeah.
So he was just a little too early, but he would have been probably great in a Hal Hartley movie. Yeah. That's a shame. But he was already like hooking up with like the Coen brothers and
Wasn't he? Didn't he do something with the two Johns? They Might Be Giants.
Who? Buscemi?
I feel like
probably. I don't remember.
Like when they were just a duo, like with a tape recorder. Like I feel like he performed with them or something. Like some kind of I don't know.
Performance art?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I hope that exists.
I don't know. Maybe I'm
making that up. I have not. I have the copy of that documentary that was made about 25 years ago about them. Yeah. Which is great, by the way. Gigantic: A Tale of Two Johns. I should go back and watch that and see if he shows up.
I love
somewhere.
the early stuff. Just so.
I love the
fun.
movie Giants. But anyway, we are going a far afield here. Okay. So. Yeah, What do I think happens in this? Is there a love triangle? Perhaps. I could see that. I don't know what kind. Maybe. Is there a death in this? Sure. Yes. Is there a dog? It's a suburbs. There's got to be a dog somewhere. Is there a cool car? It's the suburbs in the 80s. No.
It's an indie movie.
It's an indie movie.
What can they afford?
Right? It's nothing but a sea of like Ford Escorts. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't have Angry Dad. Yes. I'm sure there's an Angry Dad. I think I started off with that. But yeah. So yeah, those are my guesses. I don't really know what happens in this, but I'm excited to find out.
I feel like I can't say anything more until
you can't.
We watch it. So.
Not a thing. All right. So shall we now go and watch it and come back and talk to Stephen?
Yeah. I'll just say that there might be a love triangle and maybe someone we know is part of it.
You can't help but try to give spoilers. You're so excited right now.
Good intentions, they aren't good enough. You know I want to believe you, but I'm lacking trust. The world is sick. You say that nothing can be done about it. You think you're safe in your room, but your house is caving in.
All right, we are very lucky to have a guest today. Hi, Stephen. Can you please let us come to Canada? Like, just permanently. We got to get out of this place.
Open.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you smell the freedom?
Yeah. It smells like donuts. Did I ever tell you the story about how I went to Canada without a passport and got in trouble trying to come back to the United States?
Yes, you mentioned this.
Yeah.
Was it like in Montreal? You crossed the border in New England or something like that? Or?
You know what? It was just over the border from Maine, and the Canadian border patrol was very nice, and the Americans were not very nice, and that is the least surprising story I think I could ever tell.
Was that in Calais?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly where that was. Yeah.
Across from Eastport, Maine.
Yeah.
Near Eastport, Maine.
Yeah.
I'm actually drinking some of my
you got the
precious
Moxie.
Moxie.
Yeah. So
it's like liquid gold because I won't be able to get any more, but I've got to drink it before it goes flat. So
yeah, you're in that kind of like you want to save it, but you really can't. We have you on to talk about a movie that is maybe Dennis's favorite movie.
Up there.
Yeah, definitely up there. The Unbelievable Truth. Hal Hartley's 1989. Yeah, an 89 film. How did you first come across it?
Well, I was very lucky with Hal Hartley because we had a local rep cinema called Wormwood's Dog and Monkey Cinema. And the people who programmed the films there were big Hal Hartley fans, like going back to the Unbelievable Truth. They booked the Unbelievable Truth. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying it, but they booked that, and it kind of caught on with their audience, and they were big supporters of his work. Anytime it was released, anytime something came out, they would go out of their way to make sure that it was on their schedule, and they showed all the features that became available in Canada, which is pretty much all the major ones up into the late '90s when the theater finally closed down. But they always loved his films. They even one of the programmers went on to become the director of the local Atlantic Film Festival, and they tried to get Hal to come to Halifax because his family has roots in Eastern Canada. So they really wanted to get him up here, but as far as I know, they never were able to get him to come up and present his work. So that's unfortunate. But they had been in touch with him, and he said he would like to get up here some days, but it hasn't happened. So at any rate, I got to see much of his work in its initial theatrical release form, which was quite a treat.
Was Unbelievable Truth the first that you saw in the theater, or?
No, I don't think it was. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like, well, I've been watching his films for a long time, but I do think Trust was probably the first one that I saw in the theater, and then I had to catch up with Unbelievable Truth on probably on VHS at some point. So, and then I got to see things like Flirt and Simple Men and Amateur as they came along the pike.
Yeah, the only one I've only seen a couple of his films, and it's not. Like, I've actually really enjoyed the ones that I've seen, except for The Girl from Monday. But I think that has a lot to do with the fact that, especially filming on that digital video, that does no one any favors, Like, the only person I think who's done at least something kind of interesting, and it's still hard to watch, is Spike Lee with Bamboozled, because he's mixing that with film. That's at least interesting. It still looks terrible, though. Like, it's just, that digital video always looks bad. And it's like that very specific kind. It's not like today where a lot of stuff is shot on digital. It's a very specific format for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's from the early, let's just say it, the turn of the century.
Everything looks like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, but much worse. It looks like somewhere. It just looks like videotape, But anyway, so. Yeah, Dennis, you taped this off of cable. Had you heard of Hal Hartley yet?
Not at all. I had no idea what. And the only thing that got me, I'm like, what? I hear like the music. I kind of like the music. It's kind of neat. And then when the screen goes black and says "Meanwhile," I'm like, wait, what just happened? And it kept happening like 2, maybe 3 months later. I'm like, what is going on here? And so that's what's the hook for me. Mm-hmm. And then the whole like, I know what you need a woman, and it repeats 3 times. Like the surreal stuff got me, but it was definitely the words that got me. It's the only movie of his that does that, and it was just because he didn't have exposition to convey those things. He's like, well, I guess I'll just put these words there. Like, it was during editing. He was like, oh, I guess I gotta to explain what happened here.
What is your relationship to indie film? You write on film. You're a film critic. You teach. Yeah. You teach about film. What to you is like indie movies in this time period? The late '80s into the early '90s was like the great flourishing. And if you were there for, you're at the right age to have been there to actually seen a lot of that stuff as it was coming out. I was a little too young. It was more like I got to read about it in magazines. So.
Well, I think Hal Hartley's films came along at a great time for independent film at that time, because there were people like Spike Lee and Jim Jarmusch and Whit Stillman and these wonderful independent filmmakers who were still making stuff on a very limited budget, but somehow through the festival circuit, because of course it's really before sort of home video nerdery in a big way. I guess people had VHS players, but it wasn't, most people rented movies. They weren't building collections or anything like that. So I feel like that people were seeing these movies in the theater, either at rep cinemas when there was still a much wider rep cinema circuit, and the festival circuit. And these films were building an audience the old-fashioned way, and also through press and so on. And there was like a collective, rising tide of all these filmmakers that were all kind of supporting each other, and there was the high tide that raises all boats, I guess, in the sense that if you saw a Jim Jarmusch film, you might want to see a Hal Hartley film. They're from the New York area. They both come from the same kind of filmmaking community. Some of them even might share some some cast members even, and I feel like it was a really vibrant community and really vibrant time for these films, and I think their success kind of pushed each other on into greater things.
One thing that stood out to me when Dennis was describing why he likes this film is that, and Hal Hartley's work in general, is it's very much rooted in the American suburbs, but it's a very specific kind of American suburbs. It's not like this is not John Hughes with the big houses, and it's not set in the Midwest. There's a type of American suburb that people have in their head, which is maybe like Leave It to Beaver, if you're talking about television, or, as I said, like John Hughes movies and whatnot. This is a very specific kind of suburb that exists basically between, like, say, Long Island and Northern Virginia. It's like that first wave of suburbs where people, like the Levitt towns and stuff that they built in the 1940s and 1950s. And I'm kind of curious, because you're from Canada, like, does any of that jump out at you as I don't know, like, I find interesting Dennis's relationship to it as like a suburban thing. Like, actually, before you answer that, let me get Dennis to explain why that's important to him.
That was the thing that got me. It was like, like riding bikes in, this town that it's connected to nothing, but it's near New York City. And I don't know, it just, it run. But I come from, it's called Flower Town, but it's it's right it's outside of Philly, and it's it's the same kind of thing. It's part of the city, but you still kind of feel like you have nowhere to go. You're kind of stuck. Everybody kind of gets.
Well, not only that, but like, it's a suburb that isn't like it's not like there's the big houses. There's none of the big McMansions. Nobody's terribly rich in this movie. It's all lower middle class, and it's lower middle class suburbs, which I find like this is set in Long Island. This could easily be set in like Chester County, Pennsylvania.
It's all kind of like post-war boom.
Yeah,
area.
Right. And so I'm going to ask something very stupid and provincial. What's it like in Canada? Do you have kind of similar suburbs? Like, did that look familiar to you,
or
or
any
was
for
it?
Sale?
Yeah.
Well, Canada is by nature provincial, since we have provinces,
Yeah.
not states. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because that whole idea of like suburbs and exurbs, which you don't hear that word very much anymore, but that used to be a common term. I guess now that's sort of bedroom communities or whatever. Always kind of fascinated me. In fact, I have a laser disc called I think it's called A Place to Call Home, and it's like a collection of films about the growth of the suburbs and how great living in suburbs was going to be, all from like the late 40s and into the early 50s and that kind of thing. So, and I grew up with that vision of like Leave It to Beaver and all that kind of thing. We grew up in that kind of neighborhood. Like, we grew up in a suburb of Halifax, on the edges of Dartmouth, which is sort of the city. It's like the St. Paul to Halifax is Minneapolis. It's on the other side of the harbor. And so we grew up in a 70s built suburb that was right on the edge of like a 50s and 60s suburb. So it was kind of like this weird, you had these very 70s duplexes across from these kind of 50s prefab homes that people had. And there's this definite like dividing line between the old and the new in that sense. And so you could get a sense of like the city's kind of outward growth from these clearly 60s type homes, that they're quite large backyards, to these sort of 70s lunchbox kind of homes with these kind of tiny yards, and you could see how they were different. And so like I watch these films and kind of be intrigued by these kind of American suburbs that are kind of somewhere between a suburb but a small town, or like where the expanding suburb brushed up against these sort of outlying smaller towns. And I feel like there's a lot of that in Hal Hartley. Like if I think of like Simple Men, and even into Henry Fool, that seems to be that kind of universe that these characters exist in.
And now he's packaged the first three as like Unbelievable Truth, Trust, and Simple Men as the Long Island trilogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I guess he sees like Flirt On as like kind of New York City out, and then moving out from there.
The way that people think about the suburbs as being the place where you feel middle to upper middle class, and these people, none of them do, and that's kind of what I like. They're working class, they're mechanics, they're waitresses. It's sort of just ignoring a lot of because it's made in the 80s, it's ignoring a lot of what the Reagan idea of what America is supposed to look like.
Well, except for two characters.
Well, except for two characters, which is really interesting to me. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Well, there's Emmett, and he was who I was referring to as who's in the other part of the love triangle, in that he's our president.
Oh, God. Yeah. So yeah, Audrey has a boyfriend as this starts, and he is wearing a suit and a tie, and his hair is slicked back in a certain way. And Dennis says to me, "Yeah, he's modeled on Donald Trump." And I said, "Oh yeah,
does
okay,
he have
that's
the suspenders."
Yeah. But when Dennis said that to me, I'm just like, "Oh yeah, sure." And he said, "No, literally, he was supposed to be making fun of Donald Trump." And I went, "Oh no, oh God, this guy is just inescapable." What the? Yeah.
Yeah, I started reading Spy magazine not too long after this film came out, so.
Oh, so that all clicks, yeah.
Yeah, it all clicks.
We just saw a I don't know if you saw that video about kids in the 90s like saying what is in popular culture then. It was a video like taking.
Oh no, I missed this. I'm so worried now.
And so they said, "What's the biggest scandal?" Oh, the biggest scandal is Donald and Marla.
Oh,
because it was just on everybody's mind, like these goofballs.
Goofballs is the kindest way you could have ever put that.
Yeah.
So it is funny to me. Like, it's not surprising, I shouldn't say, because yeah, I mean, he was such a part of pop culture even then. I mean, I remember, I found the Critic, the show The Critic, the cartoon with Jay Sherman and all that. I found that on Tubi or something recently. I was like, oh yeah, I used to love this show. And immediately in like the first episode, there's a joke about, Donald Trump, and I'm just like, God, he's just never he's just always been there. I don't want, like, obviously we're here to talk about a movie, but the fact that Hal Hartley modeled the most obnoxious character in the film on Donald Trump, it's just like, he really is just an avatar for a type of America, and he always has been.
It's part of the cultural fabric.
It really
Money
is.
grubbing opportunist.
But of course,
Good a villain as any.
And he is a villain in this, though. I mean, he's a comic villain, but he is definitely the villain in this. So let's talk a little bit about like what the idea of this film is, because I kept thinking this has to be a reference to like a work that I can't remember, and let me explain what I mean by that. So, Audrey is, her last name is Hugo. Her father's name is Vic. So Victor Hugo, right? Hartley is great for making these sort of little references to, different parts of culture and philosophers and stuff, and just kind of throwing them in. And I'm not always entirely sure, like, what whether they actually are supposed to mean anything or not, or if it's just, being clever. And the reason I say that is I kept thinking there is something in this about the main character, Joshua, a criminal who isn't really a criminal and has been to prison. And she is a young woman who, towards the end of the film, is in a like a very almost like classically like late Victorian plot in a way. I was thinking about like Tess of the D'Urbervilles or something, right? Making a living as a model and living with the photographer, but always trying to like, stave off his advances. And I don't know. I just kept thinking like, is there some book that I haven't read or that I kind of half remember that this movie is referencing? I mean, they talk a lot about Moliere's The Misanthrope, which I never read. But it feels like there's like a very literary quality to this entire film. And I'm kicking myself because I can't think of what in the world he's actually referencing. And do you guys know? Do you guys have any idea?
Well, I have an inkling. I mean, obviously, these literary references run all through his work. Henry Fool is like almost the monument to them in so many ways. But the thing that I kept thinking about was, of course, and then, I was like, did I even pick up on Vic Hugo the first time I watched this film? Because I may not have.
I would not have noticed that until you messaged something, and I went, oh, right.
What I was thinking about, because he, Christopher Cooke, no relation, even though he does spell Cook with an E, which I was very happy to see. But Vic is Vic Hugo, his daughter Audrey, in Victor Hugo's daughter Adele. So this is in real life, not fictional, but his daughter Adele had this obsession with a British soldier who she followed all the way to Halifax, Nova Scotia. And in fact, she lived in a house that's about 4 blocks from where I live right now. So and then Francois Truffaut made a film called The Story of Adele H, a part of which takes place in Halifax, even though he didn't shoot any of it here. But part of the film takes place here. And I know, we know that Hal Hartley's a big fan of French New Wave, given that he sort of paid this homage to Godard in Simple Men with the dance number. So I'm thinking that he had this love of maybe The Story of Adele H, Adele Hugo, and sort of it's not a perfect match, but there is that kind of obsessive love in this case with the mechanic and not with the soldier. But that's in there, I feel. And Audrey and Adele, the names are similar enough that I feel like that might be a touchstone for this movie in some way.
Oh, that absolutely makes sense. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And I love that there's a Halifax connection in there because I love making Halifax connections to everything.
No, thank you for bringing that up. That's great. I love whenever we can find these little connections between films, between the real world, and also I just had no idea that Victor Hugo had a daughter where that happened. That's great. I have not seen that Truffaut film. I've seen some of his films. I haven't seen all of them, and actually, I don't know that there's anybody I've seen all their films of except maybe Wes Anderson because he doesn't have that many. So that's great. I have to go and look at that.
It's one of Truffaut's better films, but it is kind of a classic story in that she wound up being institutionalized. I think it turned out that she had some form of undiagnosed schizophrenia or something like that, but that only fueled this obsession with this soldier. It sort of fits as well as anything else does.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about what happens in this film. It opens with Joshua, played by
Robert Burke.
Robert Burke, thank you. First of all, it's just weird seeing him young. I am so
yes, it is.
Yeah, I am so used to him on Law and Order SVU or like later TV shows where he's just older. And we just saw what was that? Waiting to Land or oh God, what was the latest Hal Hartley film?
Where to Land.
Where to Land. That's right. And he's in that. And
yeah, he's in it.
Yeah, and I mean he's much older there, obviously. So it was a little bit of a shock to go back and watch this and seeing him young.
The thing is that he looks like a kid to us.
Yeah.
But he's still supposed to be older there. But
I know.
What we see as young nowadays is it could be
Should we talk 40. For just a moment about the fact that I think this film's amazing. I really love it. There are things in here that I could see the internet getting very angry about. I don't know, age gap discourse, and that would absolutely be coming up, unfortunately, and
pretty much anything Mike says.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Oh God. Again, it's very much a film of its time. Mike, by the way, so he's one of the mechanics at the shop owned by Audrey's father, Vic. And by the way, I just wanted to say, the moment I saw Mike on here, all I could think of, because he comes out with the guitar, and all I could think of is that the Bruce McCullough heavy metal character on Kids in the Hall. He's got the same hair.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's got the guitar and everything. I'm just like, yeah, I know this guy.
Little shout out to Tavy there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This guy Joshua, he has just gotten out of prison and he is hitchhiking back to the town where he came from, and he's dressed. And I understand why everybody keeps saying, you look like a priest, because he's got a turtleneck on and a black jacket. And it's very much like if he had the white dog collar, he would look very much like a priest. So this is obviously also kind of like a symbolism thing. Hartley seems to love religious symbolism. And, Joshua is, I don't know, he's a bit of a Jesus figure in this, I think, right? He is a guy who has been to prison but didn't actually commit any crimes. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but I got real Jesus vibes from him.
Well, Joshua is a biblical name.
Yeah, well, and it's the name Jesus,
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, there was just very much a sort of a guy about sacrifice and whatnot. I don't know. But he's hitchhiking back to town and ends up getting a job at the mechanic shop because, as he keeps telling people, he's not a priest, he's actually a mechanic. And, yes, he had been to prison, but on his way into town, he stops at he sees basically the waitress for the local diner, who then faints, and he brings her to the diner to lay her out, and we find out that her name is Pearl, and she was the sister of essentially his ex-girlfriend, who he killed in a car crash when he had been drinking. That I don't know when we exactly figure out how that happened.
But the thing is that there's gossip like throughout like half the film, like all explaining like, well, I think he killed the sister, and then and then the parents did a murder-suicide pact, or like there's like all kinds of story. Like everybody comes up with like a completely different story.
Right? Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like all we know is everybody keeps saying, well, he's a mass murderer. This guy's a mass murderer. We can't believe he came back to town. Why would he do that? When the film starts, I think, mass murderer? Oh my God. Is he, when I hear mass murderer, I think he shot up a bank or something, or something like much more violent than what actually ended up transpiring. But but that's how rumors work, right? That's kind of how these stories play out, right? This small towns and whatnot. He has come back into town, and meanwhile we're introduced to Audrey, and she is a senior in high school, and she's obviously very smart and very depressed and thinks a lot about the end of the world. And your response to this, Dennis, was, "That's hot."
So we're watching it with Mary's mother and sister, and Audrey, like, they're saying you need to go to college, and she starts reading from like a book on the end of the world.
The End of the World by Ned Rifle, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is Hal Hartley's like
his pen name. Yeah, his alternate ego.
But so and she's just talking about like how all these terrible things are going to happen and stuff like that, and so like Mary's sister and mother are kind of grinning. I'm like, yeah, I guess I have a type.
Okay, so I can be a little gloomy at times. And did I spend like high school reading about things like nuclear war and watching a lot of nuclear? Did I at one point propose Nuclear November for the show? Okay, sure.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. So yeah, she doesn't want to go off to college. She's decided that the world is ending. And obviously this is her just putting on a bit of a pose the way teenagers do to sort of, this is her way to deal with the fact that she's just unhappy and she doesn't really know what to do with herself.
Well, you're dating Donald. I mean,
well, honest to God,
you're going to have a gloomy view.
Yeah, I guess if I was dating Emmett, I'd think about the end of the world a lot too. So yeah, I mean, she is kind of a normal teenager though in a lot of ways, and that's kind of what I like is that this is a very normal. And when I say normal, I just like there's nothing terribly extraordinary about her or about the town she lives in. Like this isn't that type of film. This is just the circumstances are extraordinary in that we have this ex-con coming back to town and what happens between their relationship or sometimes lack thereof. But what I kind of like is that it is a very normal sort of story, right? I don't know. I feel like we're in an era right now where films aren't, even indie films are not about ordinary people, unfortunately. And that's kind of frustrating. And I like watching something about, I don't know, people who, they're a heightened version of people I could have known growing up. Does that make sense?
These people, they have very real everyday concerns. Vic's worried about holding the business together, and that it's, that running the garage is like a nickel and dime operation, and Audrey's wondering about her future. Like, is she going to go to school? Is she going to see the world before it blows up? What is she going to do? And and Josh is just trying to get his life back together and maybe make amends for the things that he did do or people think he did, and try to like open this new chapter. So they're all things that people can relate to, I think. Even if your average moviegoer may not take to Hartley's work or not, I think you can definitely recognize these characters as being grounded in something anyway.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the rumors swirling around Josh and what exactly did he do and why did he go to prison? How many people did he kill? Because he goes to prison not for the car crash but for killing Pearl and the girlfriend's their father. And so that's the reason he actually goes to jail. And so that's sort of the thing is like, well, what exactly happened? They got into a fight because of what happened to the sister, the girlfriend, and he pushed him down the stairs. And so that's the only story we know for most of the film. He's able to get the job as a mechanic because he's very good. So even though the town knows like who he is and they have this idea of what he did, it still makes sense to like, well, look, if he's here and he's like the best mechanic they've ever seen, they're going to let him become a mechanic. So, meanwhile, Audrey is immediately just like fascinated by this guy because think about it. Here's this good-looking guy who comes into town and he's got this air of danger and mystery about him, and he's a lot better than Emmett.
That she meets in a bookstore.
And she meets him in a bookstore, and like, where is a hotter place to meet a person than a bookstore?
Yeah.
Seriously. So while they're talking about, books about the founding fathers and George Washington and stuff, and, she is talking about how essentially the idea that like they were terrorists and they would have been executed for what they were doing these days. But yeah, so in town, there is also a sleazy photographer, Whitbread, who is encouraging her to get into modeling. They start kind of having this flirtatious thing, or it's really somewhat one-directed. It's not that I don't think Joshua is interested, but it's definitely more Audrey chasing him, just given like a lot of the circumstances.
But Vic is also at the same time. There's this whole other plot where he keeps making deals with Audrey.
Yeah,
like throughout the film, like they keep making deals with each other. Like that's kind of how Vic operates. It's like, oh, like I can take advantage of the situation. She gets accepted to Harvard, and he's like, that's expensive. How about if you go to community college, and I'll give $1,000 to No Nukes program, charity thing, and.
Well, yeah, and like his whole thing about making deals and being, constantly talking about money, is what eventually leads her into doing the modeling with the photographer. But there's a moment in here like where she's talking about the misanthrope, and before we go any further, I just want to get to this. She has a line, and I immediately was just like, hold on. Where she's reading the misanthrope, and she's talking about how this is the quote, nobody gets what they want, and they all go away frustrated and sad. And I really want to go to Hal Hartley and say, were you consciously quoting They Might Be Giants? That's literally the line from Don't Let's Start. And I just want to know, was that on purpose? I hope so. Her dad has a big birthday party where a lot of this stuff kind of comes to a head with her and Emmett breaking up, trying to figure out what's the deal, like what is the story beat with Pearl and Joshua and the killing and stuff. And I don't know. I kind of love the party scene because, again, it's that lower middle class suburban sort of look to everything. Like the pool isn't an in-ground pool, it's an above ground pool, right? It's a very it's just a barbecue that they're having, and I don't know,
beer pong is definitely being played somewhere.
Absolutely. I don't know, I really love this scene just because there is something so familiar about it in a way that I don't see in a lot of films.
Yeah, it just felt like a real backyard barbecue.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple
on the grill and
oh God, there's a scene later in there with the very long hot dogs that the mother is putting on the ground. That's just like,
exactly.
I mean, I've seen those, but I'm like, no.
I love the mother in this movie, by the way. Like, it's so stiff, like just her acting. But I don't know. It really works for me. I don't know. It's
Yeah, no, I do. And I love there's all sorts of weird little touches she has in here, like when she's putting the plastic flowers in the ground instead of planting real flowers. And again, that feels like a very, like, I mean, I've seen my mother do that, where she's just like, I don't want to be bothered with like watering real plants. I'm just going to put the plastic plants in the planter instead. And I'm like, yeah, I've definitely seen this. There's a lot of kind of back and forth in this with Audrey is pursuing Joshua, and he keeps saying like, look, we can't have a relationship. I'm not looking for a relationship. He is still dealing with like coming out of prison and all the rest of that stuff. They try to have this conversation, and her brain just isn't really taking it in, and they do a great thing with the sound editing where like voices just start doubling and becoming kind of hard to listen to, and he does this a couple of times in the film with her, and I don't know, it's just a really nice sound editing touch where it kind of brings home just sometimes when people are talking to you and you're just like, I am not following what you're talking about. I don't know, it's just a thing I really liked in here. Once she's been rejected and she decides, you know what, I'm just going to go into the modeling like her father says, and it's all about the deal, there's this whole thing about like people are only as good as the deals that they can make and keep. So she gets into this whole thing where she starts making a lot of money, and every time she models, it becomes a little bit more revealing each time.
Well, there's that great scene at the newsstand where the magazine that she's got a pictorial in comes out, and everybody gathers for the news. Like, it's the idea of everybody gathering at the newsstand to see the latest edition of the paper with this pictorial in it. Just I feel like he's channeling Preston Sturges or something like that in this film in a big way.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Yes, I was trying to think like, what does this remind me of? And yeah, Preston Sturges is a great one. There's definitely like a bit of like The Miracle of Morgan's Creek or something like that in
Very
here.
much.
Yeah, exactly.
Vic is channeling William Demarest as the dad in a big way. Like he's playing him big, but he's playing him just like a character in a Preston Sturges movie.
Oh yes, thank you. Exactly. That's perfect. Adrienne Shelly is so great in this, actually, and she could easily have been a star in like the 30s and 40s and those types of comedies. Like I really love her in this and in Trust. It's interesting you bring up the Preston Sturges thing because, as you said, not everybody's going to gel with Hartley's films, and I think part of it is the acting style, because he's consciously directing people in a way that is not like what films were in the 80s, right? Not that films were realistic, but there's something about the way that he directs people that definitely harkens back to really old comedies. Like there's something very heightened about everything. I mean, I think it works. And I think like if you can get into the type of film this is, I think it, I don't know, like I think it really is interesting because it kind of harkens back to like an older style of film. It's sort of the same thing that people complain about Wes Anderson a lot for, who's obviously like heavily influenced, I think, especially if you watch like Anderson's like kind of early stuff, especially Bottle Rocket, I think feels more than anything else like something that Hal Hartley might have done.
Oh, big time. Yeah, except Wes Anderson kept getting bigger budgets and Hal Hartley never did. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a shame.
It couldn't be as stylized.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if Hartley had been just a little bit later, maybe he could have gotten away with it. He was just in like kind of this unfortunate sort of in between.
I get the feeling he wouldn't leave the area or something, or like he wouldn't move to LA or something like that. I don't know.
So yeah, she ends up spending most of her time through the summer working as this model, and she's getting more money, and it's the dad is getting more and more shocked by how much she's revealing, so that eventually he basically employs Joshua to bring her home, and he goes off to the city to do that.
The mother does too. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, here's earrings, and she's in Europe, but she'll be back tomorrow around 2.
Well, and the mother, I think, is obviously much more okay with them having an actual relationship in the way that like Vic just can't make up his mind exactly what he wants. All he knows is he wants to have control over his daughter and what she's doing, but he doesn't actually know what it is he wants other than just control. Yeah, obviously it's played for comedy here, but it's interesting where he obviously just doesn't, like, he can't deal with the fact that she's becoming an adult, and he can't deal with not having a say in like how she wants to live her life. So that because he can't decide that, he can't decide how to deal with Joshua as a person, right? And I think he's just, I don't know, he's an interesting little petty tyrant.
Yeah.
And like not an unfamiliar type of character, but I think he's really well done here.
But I like how his viewpoint is constantly shifting,
exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah, like when he's presenting the photographer to Audrey, he's like, oh, he's an old friend. And then when the photographer starts bringing up, oh, this will be $750, and he's like, I hardly know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's constantly like switching back and forth in like almost every conversation.
Oh yeah, it's like when he can't decide whether or not he wants Josh to be involved with his daughter or not. Like I think he kind of respects Josh because he's a good mechanic, probably better than he is. That's a sign that he's a good person at heart in some ways. But he's also been to prison and he's older than Audrey, so in some ways that's inappropriate. But yet like, the photographer is a complete sleazebag, and he likes the idea that Josh is somebody who works with his hands, and he's like cut from the same cloth as you will, if you will, as he is. So that conflict is running throughout the film too.
He goes to New York to bring Audrey home, more or less. Well, basically to see her. And when he gets there, he finds that she is living with the sleazy photographer and assumes that they are having a relationship. We, of course, as the audience, see that they are not, and that she is constantly rejecting his advances. And again, I just kept thinking, like, I definitely feel like I've read about like this type of story in a book or something, and it's bothering me that I can't remember what book I read. But so he storms off and goes back to the town where they are from, and he has not been drinking this entire film because, of course, he had killed Pearl's sister in a car accident because he was drinking, and then killed her father, pushing him down the steps during a violent fight. Through the whole film, he's been rejecting any advances of have a drink. So because he sees the kind of the one spark he had was like maybe something with Audrey here, because he sees that fall apart. He gets in the van and starts drinking, and essentially has reverted to where he was when all the bad things in his life kicked off, and goes off to his father's house, or like whose house is it that they're in? It's by the beach. Yeah, it's his father's house, the one that he's been rehabbing.
Empty. It's been empty for a while because his father died when he was in prison, maybe.
Yeah. So while he is there, Pearl appears and says,
actually, no, he goes to the beach.
Oh, that's right. He's at the beach first.
He sees Pearl.
Yeah. And Pearl says, look, I've got to tell you something. You didn't kill my father.
And what I like about this scene, so he's dressed all in black and stuff. Pearl is in his bathroom, and has one of those like kind of tinted, or not tinted. There's windows that's kind of clear,
a frosted glass
window.
Yeah.
So it's obviously like a confessional.
Yeah.
And she's giving her confession to him.
Mm-hmm.
And the confession is, oh, by the way, you were fighting with my dad. He knocked you through a door. He saw me and then fell down the steps.
Right. So you didn't actually do the murder, but when the cops questioned me, I said yes because I was angry at you for what happened to my sister.
Yeah. And she said, everybody, I hated you. Everybody did. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of like everybody in the whole movie. Like there's a lot of themes of, since everybody else is saying it, we have to say it or something.
Yeah. I love that you picked up on the confessional thing, by the way. Can you tell we were both raised Catholic?
That might be in there thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Pearl, has this confession, and of course this completely changes Joshua's entire, this is what's been happening to me this entire time. As he's dealing with this in the revelation, all of a sudden, all these other people are showing up at the house looking for him, looking for Pearl. Audrey had seen him in the city, and she has gone off to try to find him again. And her father is out looking for both of them, trying to figure out where they went. Mike is looking for Pearl because Pearl disappeared, and followed the trail to the house, assuming that Joshua is making advances on Pearl, which Mike does not want, Mike being the other mechanic. So all these people end up at the house, and it becomes very much like a bedroom farce in the sense of just a lot of opening doors and people running in and out of rooms and stuff.
Yeah, this could be a silent film.
Very much. I was thinking that. I was imagining like Scooby-Doo, where they're always running from door to door.
And they're all hiding from each other. Like Audrey comes in and then is hiding, or Vic comes in and then he hides when Josh comes out, and you see Audrey in the window behind him, and it's like people are popping out all over the place.
Yeah, it's that great sort of, again, it's a farce of people listening to it through walls and spying on each other and stuff. And so eventually it all starts to make sense that Pearl was there to confess what had happened, not that she was going to hook up with Joshua. And Audrey has left behind the modeling, and she just says to her father, "Look, you know what? I'm going to give you all the money from that, since this is the only thing you seem to care about." And so she writes a check to him and gives over the savings. And her and Joshua say, he's free because he's free of the guilt of what had actually happened. And she is free because she's not going to do the modeling anymore, and she's not worried about college. She's just like, look, I'm 18. Let me go and live my life and figure out what I want to do with myself. And they, ride off into the sunset.
No.
What?
The very last shot is like, wait, did you hear that? And he's like, what? And
yeah.
and they both look up in the sky. The thing is, she's been talking about bombs the whole movie.
Right. Yeah.
And he actually hasn't encountered that at all. Like, he's never seen her talk about that. So he's like, what's going on here? And then the camera, kind of raises up looking down on them and stops.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's interesting. The end of the film, you have this hopeful ending of they're going to go run off into America or whatever. But you're right. The actual last thing is her implying that, she thinks she hears, basically the nuclear war that everybody's been waiting for to happen is going to happen. You have to think about this in context of the late 80s and the kind of nuclear paranoia of the time. And, we've covered a lot of movies about nuclear war for the show. I think it is kind of interesting that it ends on that ambiguous note of, is this her just, going back into her weird paranoid ideas, or is this actually happening? And I don't know. Is it the end of the world after all?
yeah.
The whole time I'm watching too, I'm gonna try and think of the significance of the title, because that kind of keeps shifting as to what the truth is, and a lot of it has to do with Josh and what people believe about him, which turns out to be completely false for the most part. But then there's also the truth of our own existence, and could it be wiped out at a moment's notice? And I keep thinking about that time that Ronald Reagan was joking about the bombing will begin in 10 minutes or whatever it was that he said, and not knowing that the mics were on. And this is very much in that era, so there's reason to think that that it was a possibility that 50s atomic age paranoia was making a comeback. So I feel like it all feeds into that in a big way. So in a way, I guess maybe I felt that was just kind of capturing that little bit of the zeitgeist, because this would have been in production probably before Bush Sr. took over. So I'm guessing it was still kind of Reagan era fallout, if you will, happening in this film. And
Yeah.
So I feel like that does kind of reflect the era in a big way, in a way that maybe a lot of people have forgotten, given how Reagan's been lionized, in more recent years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's something I've found so interesting going back and watching a lot of films from the 80s, and how many of them are really about nuclear war and the fear of it, and just the sense that the people in charge are, maybe crazy or not competent, or will accidentally cause the war to happen, and will intentionally cause the war to happen. And it's so interesting that, here we have this romantic comedy, and the fear of nuclear annihilation is hanging over it the whole time, between Audrey reading books about the end of the world to the way that it ends. I think it's so interesting that is this thing lurking in the background the whole time. Maybe you're left with this question of, like, what is it to live a normal suburban life and wonder about, should I start a relationship with this guy who might be a killer or not, when we could die at any minute because somebody decided to, drop the bomb. It kind of puts it in this interesting perspective of, what are our lives anyway? When we don't know, the hour could come at any moment. It's in a film that I think does have some sort of odd religious themes. I do think it's relevant. You don't know the day or the hour when it's going to happen.
So make your best deal.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get all dour at the end, but then again, Dennis does have a type.
Yeah, that's true.
If I could make a deal with God.
So yeah, I loved this. I'm so glad we covered this film.
Like, I think at the time, for me, like, I was into, like, art films. I was into, like, Peter Greenaway, and I really loved Slacker. Like, that just blew me away when I saw that. But I saw this after that. I saw it on cable. I was like, wait, this can happen here, like where I'm from, like that, like I just, like French New Wave type stuff, like that. Just, it was I don't know, like the pacing and just the odd surreal stuff that happens in his films, like that. That's always excited me.
No, I think there is something to, when you see a movie or something or any type of art set in something from where you're from, it does sort of blow your mind. You're like, oh, I don't have to I don't know. I don't have to become an accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with being an accountant, but it's like art can come from even where I'm from, which is a boring place that nobody cares about. I think there is something very exciting about seeing that, especially in a film.
And this is actually shot in Hartley's hometown, Lindenhurst. Like that's where he grew up. So it's basically, I think he had a couple of short films under his belt prior to this, but for his first feature, he definitely stuck to what he knew and the place that he knew, and featured this small town. I don't know where in Long Island it is, but it can't be too far off the LIRR.
Yeah, I kept thinking, like, when she's coming off the train, I was like, is that the same stop as in Trust, or is that?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, it might be. Yeah, I haven't watched these in close quarters, so now I need to watch like the trilogy, kind of one after the other. It's I haven't seen Trust in a long, long time, so I feel like I need to watch it almost immediately. I find it still plays really well. I mean, we're what, 35 years after this film was made, and it still feels really fresh to me. There are things about his style that maybe haven't aged as well. There's a very kind of stylized way of in the acting and the line readings. I feel like he's very deliberate in how he directs people, and as he gets more confident as a director, you can see the acting kind of slotting more into a Hal Hartley style, for lack of a better term. And that's something that either endears viewers or it turns them off, I think, given from what I've read, people's opinions of watching these. And but I like it. I feel like it gives it a little more sense of style, a little more sense of kind of a heightened realism, if you will. And but I feel like his films are always sort of grounded in even something quite real. Even when it's something like was it No Such Thing, where Sarah Polley goes off to Iceland and meets like an ancient ogre, I'm not sure, creature, an ice demon or ice giant or whatever that creature is in the film. There's still something very real about those characters that keep you engaged throughout, and I find that's certainly present here. Even while Vic is like playing this Preston Sturges-esque comedy character, and meanwhile Audrey is someone who's a lot more down to earth and a lot more kind of present and realistic. It doesn't clash to the point where I'm turned off or I'm pulled out of the picture. I think Hartley seems to know what he's doing here, and and it can still push things a little bit.
I think one of the thing that really makes this one and Trust pop out, I think partly is Michael Spiller, the cinematographer, like who would go on to do like TV shows, and it just has a really good look, and they're both just out of school, so like he's not too expensive at the time, but and then like Adrienne Shelly is just takes over, because I think Hal Hartley he comes from a family of brothers. He's very, I think, male dominated. And I think Adrienne Shelly just kind of forced him to have more of a female focus. Yeah. Just because she's so, fascinating just to watch.
Yeah, she's so good in this and in Trust. But there's something, as you point out, you have such a stylized type of acting and directing in Hartley's films. Christopher Cooke is, as you said, doing this kind of Preston Sturges character. She is so interesting to watch in this, because she could easily have been in, say, a John Hughes movie and playing Molly Ringwald's friend or something, or been in that role. Like I don't know. There's something very nimble about the way she's able to sort of play one of these characters, but there's still something like recognizably human in her. I don't know. Like I just think she was such a, talented actress, and God, what a shame that we lost her. But she's so good in this, and I don't know. I really love her in this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's 22 here, playing an 18-year-old. So it's not that big of a difference. It's not like the teenagers it's not 30-year-old teenagers in Greece or anything like that. But
no.
But she just feels very self-aware and just very comfortable in front of the camera, and the camera just loves her, of course. Like from that very first scene where she's kind of waking up in her bedroom and she just pops out of the screen at you. It's just amazing. You don't see that very often, I don't think. Like even today, like she just had this presence that is undeniable right from the get-go. And it would have been nice to see them work together again later on down the road. I mean, thank goodness he found Parker Posey for the Henry Fool films.
Yeah.
They seem to be a well matched in a lot of different ways. But she seemed to be right on board in terms of wanting to do something that's maybe slightly less conventional. She never seemed to want to take the sort of the standard, attractive actor career path at all. Like she was definitely more willing to be in independent, riskier projects, and then of course become a director herself.
Yeah.
For Waitress, which is just a fantastic film. And then I haven't seen the musical, but I would love to see that one of these days.
Yeah, same. I haven't seen it either, but I would like to. Yeah.
Well, just to go over our little thing, there was a love triangle.
Oh yes, of course we have our little things. Yes, there is definitely a love triangle in
There's
this.
angry dad.
There is an angry dad.
There's death.
There is a well, the death is off screen.
Yeah.
The death happened before the film, but it is a film about death. Yeah, definitely.
And at the end where everyone dies.
Frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No dog though.
No, there isn't a dog. I can't. I can't think of a dog in it at all. Wait. Oh, there. Yes. Yes. Hot dog.
Hot dog.
Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, all right. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on the show. This was excellent. Do you have anything do you have any new projects coming out? I remember you had this great podcast, Lends Me Your Ears. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want to talk about, or?
Not really.
Students you want to complain about, or?
No, my regular gig is I teach journalism at the University of King's College here in Halifax, and our term just ended, so I'm a free man for the next few months. I do write a weekly column that appears in the Port Hawkesbury and Strait Area Reporter and the Pictou Advocate, and it comes out every Wednesday. It doesn't always show up on their website, but sometimes it does, depending on whoever is putting the website together that week. Called Center Stage, and it's just looking at local music and other arts events in the region. And I've also recently worked on the liner notes for a reissue by a Halifax band called Rick of the Skins, which I don't sure when that record is coming out. It's going to be coming out on Obsolete Records at some point in the coming year, but I'm not sure when that's happening. And then I just have lots of other little irons in the fire, but that's kind of it for me at the moment.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again for coming on the show. This was great, and hopefully we'll have you back on again for something.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Maybe we'll come up there
someday.
Come up. Come on up anytime.
No one in the world ever gets what they want, and that is beautiful. Everybody dies frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful. They want what they're not, and I wish they would stop saying dibby dog dog ding dang dibby dibby dog dog ding dang dibby dibby. World destruction over and overture. And do I need apostrophe T? Need this dot shot?
So that was The Unbelievable Truth, starring Adrienne, Shelly, Robert John Burke, Chris Cooke, Julia McNeil, Gary Sauer. Who else was in this?
Edie Falco.
Edie. You're right. We didn't even talk about Edie Falco.
I know. She was great.
She was fantastic in this. We'll get to her in 1 second. Let me just finish. Mark Chandler Bailey, David Healy, and I think that's about it. Oh, Kelly Reichardt, the director, actually makes a short appearance. I think she was actually like the costume coordinator or something. She worked on this film apparently. So
I wonder if she worked on the flowers. The plastic flowers being shoved into the ground.
I love those. Written and directed, of course, by Hal Hartley. Yeah, Edie Falco. It's so great seeing her in this, and she is so young.
Really young.
But
and she's also prominent in Trust.
Yes,
as well.
She plays,
I think, one of the
sisters. Yeah. No, so that was great seeing her in this, and it's kind of funny because the thing about The Sopranos is she's not old making that either. Mm-hmm. It's just the type of hair and clothes she wears makes her look more middle-aged than she actually was. And I think that just kind of goes with the character that she's playing, because you see her elsewhere and she looks like a regular person.
I love when the sleazy photographer like tries to make the moves on her, and she's like, "You can't pay, right?" No, I can pay.
Yeah, I absolutely, it's so great seeing her in this. And she was in the most recent Hal Hartley movie too, so it's nice that they're.
Oh, she was? I can't remember that.
She's the ex-wife.
Oh yeah. Oh,
she's a huge part of the film.
She was great.
She's wonderful in it.
We didn't talk enough about that movie. I know we did a special episode.
We did do a
about
special episode. So yes, if you're curious and you belong to the Patreon, please go back and look for the episode we did on Hal Hartley's latest film, because we both loved it.
Where to Land.
Yeah, we watched.
I always forget what it's called.
But we watched that back in September. So yeah, go back through the archives if you're on the Patreon for the bonus episode. So
it's somewhere in there.
Yeah. All right, and again, thank you very much to Stephen for coming on the show. I was so glad to finally have him on, and so we've been like internet friends, and both very much best show people. But I loved his show. I think it's great to have an actual film critic on here, somebody who actually knows how to think about film and to talk about that, and somebody who's a journalist and an educator. And I just really appreciate that he was on.
And more importantly, a fellow Hal Hartley fan.
Yes, because that is kind of a very specific time and culture that not everybody is familiar with. So I don't know. I'm just it's so great that we somebody was able to come on and do that, and it was him.
There are dozens of us.
Are there? No, I genuinely I like his films too. So I'm very excited, and I really do think we should do the entire Long Island trilogy.
Yeah,
I know I've seen Trust. I understand, but I kind of want to do it with Stephen anyway.
Mm-hmm. You should see the shorts too. The shorts are kind of fun.
We should do that. Yeah. Maybe we'll do that again as another bonus episode. I don't know. All right. Of course, you can follow us on social media. We are Mary vs. Movies on all of your major platforms. We are on, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon, which is that major? Who knows? But it's fine. It's there. Facebook, whatever. We have a web page that you can go and check out where we are all over the place. Let's see. We are on Apple Podcasts where you can rate and review the show, and we would appreciate it if you did. We are on Spotify. We are on YouTube. We are pretty much anywhere that you can get podcasts, and you can always get our RSS feed and put it into whatever your podcatcher of choice is. I mentioned the Patreon, and yes, we have a Patreon where you can help to support the show because, as you know, we don't have ads. We are not on a network. It is just me and Dennis doing this at our house, and it costs money to make this show. We have a Zoom account that we use to record interviews. We recorded with Stephen. We recently had Julie Klausner on. We had Josh Seibert on earlier in the year. We like to have guests on, and in order to do that, we have to have a paid Zoom account. We have to pay for the server, the Libsyn hosting. All these things cost money. We have somebody run our website. We have to pay her. So if you want to help support us, because otherwise this is basically just coming out of our pockets, which is fine. We love doing it. I'm not trying to be greedy. I am never going to get rich off of this show. But if you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. And if you do that, you get access to bonus episodes. You get access to Dennis's comics that he does every so often. You get access to a whole other show, Hollywood Avalon, where we talk about Arthurian movies. And that covers everything from Apocalypse Now to Excalibur.
To Bugs Bunny.
To Indiana Jones, to The Fisher King, right? You suggest it, and if it's Arthurian, we will cover it. We covered Rick Wakeman's King Arthur on Ice. We are going to cover Monty Python and the Holy Grail someday. I am really holding off on that one because that to me is Excalibur's the best Arthurian movie. But obviously, Monty Python and the Holy Grail holds a special place in my heart.
But also, it's fairly accurate.
Yeah, it is actually fairly accurate. So we recently did Apocalypse Now. I think
because that's how it actually happened.
What, Apocalypse Now?
No.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
In history and stuff.
Yeah. There is a movie that thinks it's doing that, which is this movie King Arthur from 2004, and I'm still mad at that movie. And if you want to hear me be angry at that movie, sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. It's like this show, but a bit more focused specifically on Arthurian stuff. So if you find that interesting, if you want to listen to that, you can do that.
Nerd out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have to flip between two new movies for us to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And here are your choices. Steve Martin's satirical LA Stories from 1991. A movie that I've never really... I think I watched one scene.
Oh.
I've never seen anything. And the only reason I know I've seen one scene...
Was it a book first that he wrote?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think he wrote a book until Shop Girl.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I think I've seen one scene, and the only reason I'm saying that is because I know that they play an Enya song in it. That's literally the only thing I know. Otherwise, I have not actually seen this movie.
Is Grand Canyon on the list?
What's Grand Canyon?
It's another movie from around that same time period. Kevin Kline and Steve Martin.
I mean, we can put it on there. I just don't know it.
Also, The New Age.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is that?
Sorry,
is LA Story very New Agey?
This is touching my all my memories because that's my time period of.
Fair. Like, I don't really know anything about LA Stories.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be good to cover.
Mm-hmm.
The second choice.
Okay.
The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Yes.
They're both movies about cities. Also, the NBA playoffs have started, so look, the Sixers aren't going to go very far. By the time
we don't know. We don't know.
But here's the thing: unlike Pittsburgh, at least we have a basketball team. So let's watch a movie about a fictional basketball team featuring a real life Sixer. He was not at the time.
For me, one of the points in The Pit, I think they mentioned Dr. J or something, and they were like fawning over like how great Philly was. And I'm like, this is you're not from Pittsburgh, you people.
This is the most inaccurate thing they've ever put.
These are not the Pittsburghians I know.
I was gonna say, if there's one thing I know about people from Pittsburgh, it's that they hate us.
Yeah.
Like, really hate us, and I don't care.
Yeah. We love you, Josh.
We love you, Josh. So yeah, those are your choices: LA Story versus The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh. So here's my suggestion. LA Stories heads, Fish That Saved Pittsburgh tails, because fish is an animal, fish have tails, so do eagles.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. I don't remember what. Oh, wow.
It rolled. That's a tails.
That's a tail.
We're watching The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh next.
It's got a good soundtrack.
Does it?
Well, at least a song. The song will get in our heads.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm excited for that.
Dr. J.
Yeah, man. There's like a lot of basketball players in it, I think. Yeah. Like I don't know. I want to say
it's the original Space
Meadowlark
Jam.
Lemon is in it. I don't know. Is it? Yeah, maybe it is the original Space Jam. I don't know. I'd be a little sad there's no Bugs Bunny though.
But 70s, like space back then was, Aquarius and all that, as opposed to,
Wait. Oh, that's right. There's something like astrological about this, I think.
Very much so.
Oh, really? That's going to be funny. Okay. That's going to be fun. All right. So that is our next film. All right. Well, now that we've done that, until next time.
I don't think the criminal element can never be rehabilitated.
Go watch Romper Room.